From talking about is anyone else going to leave the team this offseason to, hey, maybe there's a game against Arizona in Palm Springs. What did Tom Izzo say at his end of year press conference? And then get ready for this weekend's spring practice with Ryan O'Blennis of Spartans Illustrated. We talk recruiting, what we want to see this weekend, all sorts of stuff. Let's go.
Are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you so much for kicking off your day with us here at Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white, 5 days a week here in the Locked On Podcast Network. We're talking a little bit of football in segments 2 and 3, but first we're going to start off with some shooty hoops because your Hall of Fame coach, Tom Izzo, spoke with the media today and talking about all things that happened, a little bit last season, but more so what's going to go on this offseason or lack of things that are going to go on this offseason, hopefully. And you know what? Let's just get right into the meat right now because what is on everyone's mind ever since Tyson Walker announced his return, ever since Malik Hall announced his return, but Jaden Akins. That's right. Tyson Walker kind of sort of plays a position that Jaden Akins wants to play, that shooting guard, the guy that gets those 14 to 16 shots per game. Will Jaden Akins be happy being the third guy in the offense for his third year at Michigan State? Well, Tom Izzo didn't name drop Jaden Akins specifically, but he was talking about how he doesn't expect anyone leaving. Or so we think. That's right. This is going to be a tweet from Graham Couch kicking us off here. Izzo tells Matt Charbonneau of the Detroit News that he's, quote, not really worried about someone leaving unexpectedly from his team. Now, that can be taken one of two ways. Either that, well, he's not really worried about anyone leaving his team, or if anyone does leave the team, then he's not going to be really worried about it. But this tweet from Chris Solari maybe gets us closer to uncovering what that quote meant. He wrote, quote, the grass is always greener, even though it never is, it always is. So do I feel comfortable with it? I feel as good as I can feel at this point in time. I don't know if anyone feels comfortable with anything anymore. I don't know if that did anything to clear anything up, actually, but yes, that is all that Tom Izzo said, is that he's not really worried about anyone leaving this team. So however you want to decipher those comments, go for it. Based on what he said and the tone of what he said it and knowing what we know from the whispers inside the program is that right now Michigan State still doesn't expect Jaden Akins to leave. But just as Tom Izzo said in that quote, you never really know. The grass is always greener. Kids can peek their head in the portal and see what else is out there more times than not. But yes, that is where we're at right now. I hope that brought a shred of clarity. I know that was very far from a defined answer of nope. Actually, I just talked with him 5 minutes ago. He said that he is really ready for next season. But yeah, that is the best way to put it, is that that's the best news we could hear from Izzo on top of everything that we've known beforehand, that we could want. Again, this transfer portal window is open until May 11th, so we have quite some time before we get our for sure answer. But right now, things are looking okay until they're not. That's what we're going to leave it at right now. Tom Izzo actually also went on to say that he does expect some guys to enter the NBA draft. Now, of course, I'm not sure if we still need this reminder or not, but I'm going to keep saying it until proven otherwise. That guys can enter the NBA draft, but still retain their eligibility, kind of like Max Christie did last season. Of course, he ended up going to the NBA draft. Aaron Henry did it not too long ago, where he entered his name in the NBA draft. But he said that guys could enter the NBA draft, and he was kind of alluding to Jaden Akins doing that as well, which maybe that helps Jaden Akins come back to Michigan State. Maybe he hears from NBA scouts that, yeah, it really doesn't matter if you play the 2 or the 3 in college. You're going to be close enough to what we want in the NBA for you here. So hopefully that is what he hears from NBA scouts as well. Of course, you could get AJ Hogard putting his name in for the NBA draft. You could be getting, I don't know, Tyson Walker, for example. But here's my thing, and this is something I always say year after year, so I'm sorry if this is like your third or fourth time hearing this from me, but if I was a coach, I would encourage any player that had any inkling of going to the NBA or professional basketball later in their career, I would really strongly push them to enter the NBA draft and retain their college eligibility, because why not? It's free feedback from NBA scouts and people that know what you have to work on going into the rest of your college career, whether that's just 1 year, 2 more years, 3 years, whatever that is. Heck, I mean, just imagine you're a senior in college that, is not even playing basketball. Like, you go to a Fortune 500 company, you show them your body of work, and they tell you what you need to work on that last year of college before you go into the workforce. Like, yeah, it's free advice. I mean, I would push every single player on my team to go to the NBA draft. So again, that's just me, a clown with a microphone, not a Hall of Fame coach, but I'm sure Tom Izzo doesn't have too distant of thoughts from me on that. So also, Malik Hall, it was confirmed, something that we've alluded to. Okay, oops, maybe not alluded to recently, but straight up said on this podcast that he did have foot surgery this week. He is rehabbing that foot, of course, that he was really struggling with throughout the season. So Tom Izzo did confirm that he had surgery. Gave no timetable on his recovery, but I would assume that you'd be good to go by next season. Also, speaking of next season, Izzo talked about the pressure that is going to be on this team going into next season. Of course, we have the national title or bust talk. They will be a top 5 preseason team. Jay Billis actually tweeted out a graphic of his top 10 teams, and he has Michigan State as the number 2 team in the country, sandwiched between number 1 Duke, who is returning a ton of talent, and a top 3 recruiting class, kind of like Michigan State, and then also the national champions, UConn, at number 3. But regardless, MSU will be squarely in the top 10, if not the top 5 of many preseason polls coming into next year. And that's something that we haven't seen in quite some time, since the 2019-2020 season. And Izzo said that, I love being in that spot. I like our opportunity. I like our chances. I hope we're rated high. I like that pressure. So, hey, I know that us fans, sometimes we feel more comfortable going into the season outside the top 25 because MSU likes to pounce on people and surprise them. That's some of the best Izzo teams that you get, the ones that you don't really expect a lot from, that end up stunning everyone because, well, they're just so well coached. But this will not be one of those years. This is going to have a lot of expectations around them, as you already know. And some other things that Izzo, bebopped on was the point guard play. Of course, they have McDonald's All-American Jeremy Fierce coming into the fold next year. You have Tyson Walker. You have Trey Holloman as well. And Izzo said that Michigan State will often play more than one point guard on the court. Last year in that Marquette game, he had Trey Holloman, AJ Hoggard, and then Tyson Walker on the court together for 5 possessions against Marquette. They had a 0 on their box score plus minus. Shout out to Andy H, RCMB. He posts those box scores on Twitter after Michigan State wins. So that's where I got those stats from. But yeah, with a kid as talented as Fears, not just offensively, but defensively as well. It won't be as crazy maybe to see those lineups with AJ Hoggard, Jeremy Fears, Tyson Walker. Even though you got 2 guys that are like, 6 feet with Tyson Walker, 6'2" with Jeremy Fears, not incredibly undersized, but still, by no means lengthy. Still a really good stick to you on ball defenders, and you get some good offense there as well. So it's going to be, like we talked about in yesterday's show, quite a good problem to have, but quite a problematic jigsaw puzzle to work with, because you're going to have 12 guys on next year's roster that can play at the level that you want them to. And again, I can't stress this enough. This is a great problem to have, but man, early in the season, we're going to be seeing 397 different lineups per game. It is going to maybe drive us a little batty here for the first few weeks as we watch Michigan State trying to figure out what lineups work best with one another. But again, the Hall of Fame coach, Tom Izzo, gets the keys to that. Hey, speaking of the first few weeks of the season, Michigan State right now, they still don't have a Thanksgiving tournament, but Izzo alluded to, Michigan State will likely be playing Arizona in Palm Springs, California next season. Acrisure Arena over there is a nice little 10,000-seat stadium that Michigan State could play in against Arizona, and that shouldn't surprise us at all. Arizona, they are one of the top 5 teams that have the best national title odds, of course, with Michigan State. Kentucky's also on there, UConn and Duke. But yeah, it's just Tom Izzo doing what he can to schedule the best team anywhere, any place, anytime, because that's how the sausage is made here in East Lansing. Also, really quick, this is outside of Michigan State basketball news, but Tom Izzo may have just dropped a really good nugget on the rest of the Big Ten, saying, quote, Purdue has everybody back. He was down in Illinois for I think it was a Coaches vs. Cancer or some cancer organization to help Brad Underwood with a few other Big Ten coaches as well. Matt Painter was there. Fran McCaffrey down there. Fred Hoiberg was down there. And I'm sure they talked for quite some time when they were all together. And he may have just let it slip that Zach Edey is going to be back for sure. Of course, it's most likely that he was going to return. Edey was pegged for a lot of second round picks in mock drafts. But yeah, Zach Edey hasn't formally announced anything. And Izzo, after a conversation with Matt Painter, may have just let that little nugget slip. So yeah, it'll be most likely a 2-horse race in the Big Ten Conference next year between Michigan State and Purdue. Wisconsin might have something to say about that. Michigan, if they get Hunter Dickinson back, could have something to say about that. But yeah, that's big Big Ten news. Slipped out by Tom Izzo there is that, yeah, Purdue expects to have everyone back, including the guy that has not made his big announcement. So there you go, Tom. Always talking for better or for worse, and that's one of the for better times. Very rarely is it for worse. We always love when Tom Izzo talks, so very lucky to have him here in East Lansing and just being unapologetically who he is. All right, we're going to switch things up here. We're going to get to the football field in a little bit with Ryan O'Bleness of Spartans Illustrated, but first, Built Bar. That's right. We're talking Built Bar, the best protein bar in the land, gang. You've heard us talk about it up and down for weeks, months, years, however long you've been listening to this show for a very good reason. They take care of you in 3 different ways. First way is, hey, they're going to treat your taste buds with nothing but respect. This tastes better than a candy bar. They are wrapped in 100% real dark chocolate. And I got a text update to my phone not too long ago that they are dropping a cookies and cream Built Puff. I almost fell on the floor when that text came across my phone. I cannot wait to get my mouth on that. The second way they take care of you is with your body. All right, most of these Built Bars, just 130 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, just 4 grams of carbs, but a whopping 17 grams of protein. You're not going to feel all weighed down, bogged down, all jittery off the sugar like you do with all the other protein bars. You're going to feel light, but you're going to feel the power with Built Bar. And the third way they take care of you is with convenience, as if Built.com wasn't convenient enough to find your Built Bars. Let's say you're at Sam's Club running some errands. Let's say you're at Walmart running some errands. Drop by the pharmacy section and get a 4-bar box. That's right there on the shelves now at Sam's Club and Walmart. Or hey, if you're old-fashioned like me, just go to Built.com to stock up on those Built Bars. We are now joined by Ryan O'Bleness ahead of Michigan State spring football bonanza open practice with a little bit of scrimmage palooza, I think is the official name for it. Of course, of Spartans Illustrated. He's the managing editor and just honestly just really Mr. Do-It-All over there at Spartans Illustrated. Ryan O'Bleness, hey, welcome back to the show, man. How on earth are you doing?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here. Always fun to talk about what's going on with Michigan State.
And plenty going on this weekend. This is the big one for Michigan State spring football. It is, of course, going to be open to the public, 2 o'clock, free admission, whole lot of festivities going on. But enough of us fans, enough of what we can enjoy here at the game. There is going to be, I would hope, a contingent of recruits coming up to East Lansing this weekend. Ryan, do you mind taking us to MSU Football Recruiting Church right now and dropping us who is coming this weekend? Is it going to be a big weekend for Michigan State, or is it going to be on the smaller side? What are we feeling here going into the recruiting weekend?
I feel like compared to last year, it's a little on the smaller side, at least in terms of, who has publicly announced that they're going to be there and, who I know is going to be there. But, there's still a lot of really good recruits, a lot of talented players. And, it starts with 2 commits, Jalen Thompson, 4-star out of Tennessee, absolutely lockdown corner, great length. He, I think he is somebody who is going to have a great college football career. He'll be making the trip on Saturday. Talked to him a little bit about it. He's very excited to get back to East Lansing. And he he's a player who still, even though he committed to MSU, back in December, there's still a lot of programs who want him because he's such a talent. He's still checking out a few other places, but he's completely locked into Michigan State, which is good. And then, the most recent commit, offensive lineman Andrew Dennis, will also be there on Saturday. He was there last weekend as well, and that's when he committed. I know that, the Michigan State coaches are very high on his potential. He's a very hard-working kid. He's very athletic. He's a former hockey player, so he's taken a lot of that kind of footwork and stuff that he learned then. And after, his body grew into an offensive lineman type, he still has a lot of that, and he has great length, positional versatility. So, he's another big get for this class. And then, I think of the uncommitted players, the two headliners are, of course, 5-star defensive tackle David Stone, IMG Academy in Florida, originally from Oklahoma. I know that Michigan State fans are already plenty familiar about Stone. And
you got that right. Yep.
And the other one out of Oklahoma, is Zadavian Sims, the 4-star defensive end, another huge target for Michigan State. Who's been high on the Spartans for a long time. He'll be coming up with his trainer, Sean Cooper, who's, an excellent trainer who's built an excellent pipeline with Michigan State. He was by Jobe's trainer. That's a strong relationship that MSU has. And that's why you have seen a lot, MSU going after a lot of Oklahoma targets is because of that relationship there. And so, those are obviously the 4 big ones. And then, in the 2025 class, wide receiver LaMason Waller is supposed to be on campus. He's a huge one in that class, great playmaker, talented out of California, talented kid. So, as far as I know, he's still expected to be there. And I think that with, MSU being kind of on, so far away from where he lives in California, it'll be good for him to get to the campus to check out the atmosphere, to see what it's like, to see if, that could be a potential fit for him. I'm sure he's a while away from a decision as of 2025, but these visits are always big. Another one out of Texas is running back Mekhi Frazier. This is a kid that I really like. Strong.
Good tape. Really good tape. Oh, yeah.
He's listed as an athlete because he's also a tremendous linebacker. Michigan State's recruiting him as a running back. Obviously, there's no running back committed so far in the 2024 class. I think Frazier is the kid that they like. I think that Frazier is already pretty high on the Spartans. When I talked to him, he called them a premier college football program. He's excited to get out to campus and check it out. And he told me that he's actually going to be there for a multi-day visit. I think he's actually getting there on the 14th and not leaving until the 17th or something like that. So, he's going to be able to get a nice look around, check out the spring game, check out the facilities, meet with the coaches. Those are right now the big names that I know who are going to be there. There's going to be several prospects who don't have offers, a lot of in-state ones. One kid who I think to keep an eye on is Javon Thomas. He's an East Lansing high school prospect. So, he's on campus all the time. He's built a strong rapport with the coaches, in the relationship. He's got a lot of group of 5 offers at the MAC and stuff. His mom's a Michigan State alumna. That they're obviously very high on the Spartans, and, he's going to be working to get that offer. So I think, that's a name to kind of watch out for as well.
There we go. And this is completely irrational, just, dumb fan logic on my part. But the kid coming in from California, lovely that he's coming in at such a beautiful weekend. It's going to be 76, sunny. It's not going to deter him immediately from going to a school in the great state of Michigan. It's not going to be 39 degrees, windy, or whatever it was last year. Again, that could have no standing on the kid's decision. But yeah, I kind of like that's going to be beautiful weather for the Cali kid and those Southern kids coming up as well. I do want to keep it with recruiting here, but the most recent commit of this class, of course, you alluded to him. You also wrote a great piece on him for Spartans Illustrated as well. But we are talking Andrew Dennis. Got the offer about a month ago, took some time to think about it, but this kid grew up a lifelong State fan and eventually, of course, earlier this week, pledged his commitment to Michigan State. What was the biggest reason in your conversations with him why you think he picked Michigan State? Is it just because that he's got a closet full of Michigan State gear at home, or is it probably a little bit bigger than that, would you say?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the relationship that he built with offensive line coach, Chris Kapilovic, Coach Cap. I think Coach Cap was honest with him from the get-go. It took Dennis a while to actually get the offer from Michigan State. He made several visits, and he was in constant communication with Coach Cap and the staff. But Coach Cap basically told him, these are the things you need to work on, and we'll get you that offer if you do that. And he, to his credit, he's like I said earlier, a very hard worker, and worked on those aspects of his game, and eventually got the scholarship offer. And then once that offer came in, I think the writing was kind of on the wall that he was going to be a Spartan. He seems like a kid who's going to be a great ambassador for the program. You already see him on social media trying to recruit some of these other kids that are MSU targets. And so I think, being in state, like I said, he grew up playing hockey, and he told me that a lot of his like hockey tournaments, games, stuff like that were in East Lansing and the surrounding areas. So he was very familiar with the landscape out there, and I think, like I said, Michigan State's very high on his potential, what he can become, and he has great length, great athleticism, very smart kid. And his recruitment was really starting to pick up too. He got quite a few Power 5 offers before MSU came in, and he also had several Ivy League offers because, like I said, he's a really intelligent kid. Wow. And and he just seems like a kid who is going to be all in on the program. And offensive line is always probably the hardest to project how they're going to do at the college level because most of the time they're not playing for 2-3 years.
Right.
Yeah. They drive on campus. Like, it's very rare to see a true freshman get meaningful snaps. And I don't think you're necessarily going to see him on the field right away. But I think that once he puts a couple of years in the program, he's already shown that he can grow, he can develop, he can gain strength, he can do all these things. And, I think that, he's very likely to be a future starter 2-3 years from now, whatever it might be. So really high on Dennis. Just from my conversations with him, he's just a great kid.
Okay.
Very, very easy to talk to. Very, like I said, smart, very well spoken. A kid who I guess you would just call a Spartan dog. Like, he's just going to be all in on this program.
There we go. Love it. And I also, find the parallels between hockey and football too. When it comes to offensive linemen, you always see hockey guys commit and then you don't see them on the ice until 3 years, 4 years after that. And it's kind of like that with offensive linemen more times than not too. So by 2025 or 26, hopefully we get to know this kid a little better on the field. But this could be a really quick answer coming up, or it can't be. I mean, this is entirely up to you, obviously. But is MSU, you think, expecting any commits somewhat soon, like this weekend or anything? Or is there really no one even on the radar for a commitment?
Yeah, I don't know about this weekend. Anything can happen while they're on this visit, and the coaching staff could convince them that we want you to commit right now, and if they are buying what they're selling, it could happen. For me, I think the next big kind of commitment date on my radar is tight end Dylan Messman. I think April 28th, something like that he's announcing. He's a Spartan legacy. I believe both his parents are MSU grads. I think his mom was a basketball player at MSU, and his dad was recruited by Nick Saban at the time, if I'm remembering correctly.
There we go.
Yeah, obviously in-state kid. He's made multiple visits to MSU. He had MSU in his top 10, and he's always been trending and toward the Spartans, it seems. I know Cincinnati is also very high on his list, so it's definitely not a done deal, anything like that. He's also a really nice kid, and a kid, but a really, really talented football player, and a great tight end. So, that'd definitely be a big get for MSU. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but, like I said, I think he's been trending the right way for the Spartans for a long time. So we'll see how that plays out.
Well, there we go. And before we let you go, enjoy the rest of your week as we head into Michigan's spring game. I talked, on an episode not too long ago about the 5 storylines that I'm looking for in this spring practice. What do you got? Just, I don't need 5 if you don't want. That's obviously a lot. But what are you looking for in this spring practice / kind of scrimmage, sort of somewhat game here? Is it just straight up, just, what everyone else is looking for, just how are the quarterbacks going to look, or is it a little deeper than that for you coming up?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there are multiple storylines to look at for this game. And as you kind of alluded to in this format, it's going to be hard to kind of tell, where things actually are.
A little bit.
But, it's still going to be the fans' first look at how things, how the team looks. I think the big thing, obviously, outside of quarterback competition, which is the number one thing, we had Noah Kim for media availability yesterday, and I kind of like what he had to say about, I think he was asked if he's the forgotten man in the competition, because it kind of feels that way, right? Thorne is the 2
It does.
And Hauser has got all the fanfare as a former 4-star prospect, but Kim has just been kind of silently working in the background, saying, told us that he brings the intensity every day. And, until the coaches make that final decision on who's starting, he said, quote, "it's on." So, he's a competitor too. So don't count him out. But, obviously outside of quarterback, for me, I'm always looking at the offensive line, defensive line trenches to see who's developing there. Obviously with the newcomers like Keyshawn Blackstock and just the added competition and depth on the offensive line has been a big topic this year. I think there's 5 players returning who started at least 2 games last year. But on top of that, you have all these players now who are a year older, more experienced, that maybe didn't play as much last year, but, have been making steady improvements since last year and throughout the spring. And, it's just fun to watch how they develop. And, with Blackstock and with the 2 freshmen, Stan Ramil and Cole Dellinger, see how they do. Defensive line, brought in a couple of transfers. I know that Mel Tucker said the defensive line is banged up, and that's why, there's not going to be a traditional spring game this year. So I don't know who is actually going to be available for that. I think Jarrett Jackson's banged up, so I'd be surprised to see him, the transfer from Florida State. But, you have all these other guys that came in, like the freshman, Andrew DePape and Bai Job. And then you have, Tunmise Adelaide, who came in from Texas A&M, who's, who told us, as many of us had suspected, but he confirmed with us recently at a player availability that MSU plans to use him all across the line, anywhere from 0 technique all the way to wide 9 technique, lining up at end in the interior or whatever. So nice. I think, he could end up being a pretty special player. And I'm really interested to see how they kind of use him. The linebackers, you got Jacoby Windman going back to more of a traditional role back then, but Scotty Hazelton was still talking about how versatile he can be, and Aaron Brule came back too, and Cale Halliday. And, I don't know what the status of Darius Snow is with his injury.
Right.
He's not been talked about much. So, I'd be surprised to see him Saturday, but who knows? And, Jordan Hall was also another linebacker just as a freshman that Hazelton said already came in and as a leader, and Brule said, he could step on the field right now, play, not miss a beat. So, and then, in the secondary, it might be a youth movement. You have all those 2022 kids who are likely going to get a lot of playing time back there. You lost Xavier Henderson. So Jaden Mangum is likely to start back there at safety. And Hazelton said he's been picking up that torch kind of Henderson left as kind of the communicator back there. So interested to see how he's grown, since the fall, because he did get into a lot of games, and same with guys like Dylan Tatum, Malik Spencer. That whole 2022 defensive back class really is going to be fun to watch. And, on the back to the offensive side of the ball, who's going to emerge as that third wide receiver? You got Keon Coleman, who's obviously going to be the main target. You got Trey Mosley, who's Mr. Reliable, catches everything thrown to him. I know you're a big fan. And
love Trey Mosley. Yeah.
Great dude. And so I've heard a lot about Christian Fitzpatrick, Montori Foster this year. I guess they were both kind of banged up last year, so they didn't get a chance to really shine. And then the second year players too at wide receiver, Tyrell Henry, Antonio Gates, and Jerron Glover. Those guys have been coming up a lot throughout spring. So, I'm interested to see what they do. At tight end, Malik Carr, he's going to kind of take over that number one tight end role. He's been saying that he was learning the ins and outs of the position since he switched, since he came in from Purdue, and, been working on the blocking, things like that. He's always been a threat in the passing game when he can. And then, Tiny Hopper was another kid we talked to recently who really impressed me from the Boise State transfer. I think he's going to get a lot of playing times because he is an excellent blocker, and that's going to get him on the field. Yeah. One surprising name that's come up a couple times this offseason at tight end is Evan Morris.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
So I think him and Jack Nickel, might be kind of fighting to be that third tight end to get on the field. But yeah, Morris has come up a couple times. I guess he's been really impressive throughout the spring. So we'll see.
Good deal. Nice. And yeah, that is, there's another name that you just dropped there not too long ago that I just want to add that I've been hearing some great things whenever I try to peek my head in and try to get some inside information. And that is Jerron Glover. I mean, the young receiver. So like that's a kid that could be vying for that number 3 receiver role, if not number 4. Yeah. So yeah, hearing a lot of good things about the young guys too on both sides of the ball. Yeah.
And speaking of hearing of good things too, I almost forgot to mention, the one name that has been constant throughout the offseason is Nathan Carter. I think he
yeah.
And he is just a great kid. Like we talked to him too. And not only has all of his teammates and coaches, when we talked about him, praise what he's doing on the field, they all praise him as a person, as a leader on the field. And, I think that I really like this kind of trio of running backs that MSU has with Carter, with Jaron Mangum, from South Florida too, Jaden's brother, and Jalen Berger. So, I think between those three, they can find something special there, and I expect the running game to be a lot better. I also expect the offensive line play to be better. So, I think it's spring. Everybody's optimistic right now, but it just feels like it just feels like the program. It feels a lot more like going into that 2021 season where nobody was giving Michigan State respect. They all have that chip on their shoulder. They're all really working hard. Some of them have mentioned maybe last year after that 2021 season, they got a little complacent. Like that's absolutely not happening around the program this year. So we'll see if it translates.
Right. Yeah, no, like it is funny. Like there is optimism around programs across the country every spring, but like this one has like some evidence around it. Like they are healthy, it's just, especially compared to where they were last year. And like, yeah, it's excitement too. It's just all the position battles going on as well. So I don't know. We're close to shaking all the stink of last season off. But yeah, the spring Saturday, especially with the beautiful weather, good place to start. So thanks a lot for getting us primed, prepped, ready to go into this weekend, Ryan. Really always do appreciate having you on, man. If you guys want anything else from Ryan, well, hey, may I steer your attention to Spartans Illustrated. Just doing great work over there, you, the whole gang as well. So anything else you want to add before we let you go? Enjoy the rest of your day as we go into the spring weekend here.
No, like you said, we got a lot of great stuff over at Spartans Illustrated right now. Go over there, subscribe, see what we got going on. But always a pleasure to come on, chat with you.
There we go. And gang, we will be back tomorrow, barring any breaking news that pushes this even further down the road. Anthony Ianni, he joins us during Autism Awareness Month, talks about his great event that he held with Draymond Green last week. We also talk about Michigan State basketball in general too. So that'll be tomorrow's episode. So keep it tuned here. And of course, after the spring practice, I'll be here overreacting to every single little thing that happens from the stretches down to the 3-versus-3s scrimmage. That's right. So Lock on Spartans, keep it tuned here every single day. Or also, like we said, Spartans Illustrated. Go enjoy the rest of your day. Love you all. Go Green.